Celebrating the small wins is a vital part of any productivity or goal-oriented program. Often that's done through monthly reviews along with other reviews. So imagine my surprise when I heard that John Acuff, somebody who I follow, who professes to be a goal nerd, was working on his monthly reviews as one of his goals for this year. Woohoo! There's hope for me yet, and you too. In case this is your first time, my name is Valerie Pugsley, and I help entrepreneurs and side hustlers gain confidence, focus, and momentum, and I help them by overcoming the self-sabotage, which often looks like procrastination, perfectionism, and overwhelm, so that they can actually do the programs on their hard drive and make that impact that they want to make on their families and the people around them, both in contribution and in income. So John's revelation gave me the idea of a monthly review. And how does that fit into celebrating anyway? Well, we'll get into that a little later in the video. But for now, let's find out, why is it important to celebrate those small wins? We all have small and big wins every day, but we don't recognize them often because we're just too busy heading to that next win to take time to stop and appreciate it. Or we're focusing on what we didn't get done so that we don't even recognize what we have actually accomplished. Some examples of some small wins could be as simple as not hitting the snooze button when you wake up in the morning, or checking something off on your to-do list. Or maybe you receive a compliment from a coworker, a spouse, or a friend, or a client. All of these are little wins that we need to stop and recognize. In making progress towards your goals, your missions, your dreams, you need to recognize the progress you're making instead of judging how long it's taking you to get there or what you haven't done. When you judge these things, then you're missing out on what you're actually accomplishing. And you could also be missing out on opportunities that can help you accomplish it even sooner because you're too much in judgment mode. When you see and acknowledge the little wins, your brain lets out a chemical called dopamine. It's the chemical that makes you happy. It also reinforces behavior. And when you recognize these wins, it's going to reinforce the behaviors that got you to that win. And if you don't acknowledge those wins, then you're most likely going to be staying in judgment mode, which is going to create overwhelm and a whole bunch of other negative emotions, which will lead you to escape activities. Netflix, social media, games, eating, sleeping, etc. Those behaviors also release dopamine, but now you're reinforcing the unproductive and unhealthy behaviors. Teresa Annabelle, a Harvard Business School professor, discovered that making progress on meaningful work was one of the most motivating factors for employees. This would be true for entrepreneurs and side hustlers as well, and why it is so important to know why the work you're doing is important. When you celebrate small wins, it will lead to positive emotions like joy and a sense of accomplishment. By celebrating them, you reinforce that it is possible to actually make progress on your goals. This will lead to an increased sense of confidence and motivation to continue working towards your goals. And when you write them down, you'll have them as a reference, which can be really helpful on those days. You know what I'm talking about. Everything you try isn't working, interruptions everywhere. You're just not getting anywhere. It can get really discouraging. But if you review those wins that you've documented, it can boost you and encourage you. All right, tomorrow's a new day. I can do this again. I am capable of doing things and accomplishing goals, like when I did XYZ. And finally, celebrating small wins helps keep you focused on the goal that you're working on, because you're focusing on what you're getting done or not, and then that lets you know that you need to pivot and change so that you can be focusing on what's important to you. Now, you're going to need two things to celebrate your wins. First, a way to recognize and capture the wins. One of the ways to do this is in that monthly review process that I shared with you at the beginning. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Second, you need a list of ways to celebrate. Think of it as your celebration menu. It could be buying flowers, taking a walk in the middle of the day, or reading a book for 20 minutes in the middle of the day. Maybe you give yourself permission to scroll social media for 10 minutes, or call a friend. And for those really big goals, maybe you reward yourself with a trip, whether it's a day trip locally or a bigger trip where you fly somewhere. I had a coach recommend that I needed 50 items. If that seems a little overwhelming, then start with 10. Work yourself up to 25 and just gradually keep adding more. And keep in mind, there's varying degrees, right? It could be as simple as writing it down and doing a happy dance, right? It could be something that's just a 5 or 10 minute reward. Or again, those longer 20-minute, half day, spending money, whatever the things, different degrees, right? Because some wins are little wins and we just need a little extra pat on the back. And some ones are really hard and we work towards it. Or maybe there were several little wins getting up to it. And you know what? Those deserve a bigger reward. One of the ones I like to do is buying myself a bouquet of flowers. And I use this especially when it's something that I've been really wanting to get done for a while, or it makes me especially happy or proud for whatever reason, right? It could be big or small, but it's like it's been that challenge for me to get it done, and now I got it done, and I feel really good about it. I'll buy myself a bouquet of flowers. And the beauty of that reward is that it lasts for 3 or 4 more days. So each time I look at them, I can remind myself of the accomplishment that I bought it for. I'd love to know, what kind of rewards do you like? Put them in the comments below, and that can spur all of us on to have ideas and add things to our list. Now back to the monthly review. I've had that blocked on my calendar for I don't know how long, and yet I seldom seemed to get to it. And so I was really surprised to hear John, who has accomplished way more than I have in terms of books and speaking and career-wise and being a goal nerd, and yet he was still struggling with it as well. So he was admitted to having being ADHD, and I've noticed recently that I may have some of those tendencies too. Never diagnosed, but just seems to resonate with, not a lot, but some of the symptoms. And so when he shared that was his goal, it made me think of co-working. I've found it very helpful. And so if you're not familiar with co-working, let me explain. In this case, these monthly review co-working sessions are going to be virtual, so via Zoom. We'll get on a call at a preset time. Right now I'm focusing on having them on Friday, so it's not necessarily going to be the exact last day of the month, but it'll be very close, either a few days before or a few days after the last day of the month. We'll have a brief introduction with each other, whoever shows up, and then we'll turn our mics off and get to work using whatever review process you have to review your month. If you get finished in time, you can start planning the month ahead. And then the last 5 or 10 minutes, depending on how many people show up, we'll share the wins that we've accomplished and also the learnings that have happened. A lot of times when you do these reviews, you'll see some habits, or you'll see a trend or something that you weren't even aware of. And so by sharing that with others, you're going to reinforce the learning for yourself so that you can actually implement whatever it was that you learned or whatever it is that you're wanting to do in the future. It helps as we celebrate with others. That's just another way of celebrating in and of itself, right? Amplifying it and having others come along and cheer us on. And then another piece of co-working that's helpful, especially for people who have focus challenges or the ADHD, is it creates something called body doubling. And I don't know all the science behind it, but I have experienced how it works for me. It's somehow that it's almost like you're in an office together or something. By having other people around you, it reminds you of what you're supposed to do. When your mind starts to wander, you start to get off track, you'll see the other people and, oh, that's right. Okay, here's what I'm doing, right? Keeps you on track. Some of us are more externally motivated, like we'll do things for a deadline or if it involves other people. So co-working is great for them. And then now in this day and age with a lot of people working at home, it gets to be kind of lonely, and we were created for community and each other. And so this is just another opportunity to be with people, and yet we still can get work done at the same time. If you would like access to this free co-working session, There's a link in the description. There's also some other videos that'll be showing up now here that will help you with this process of celebrating and understanding why things are important, having that meaningful work. If you have liked this video and you found it helpful, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, set up the notifications, ding ding. I hope you have a fabulous day.